your boy, Dash the Tru Inferno! Back with a very huge Call of Duty Advanced Warfare commentary video for you, the YouTube citizens. And I want to go back to last week, Thanksgiving Day week, where outside of the fact it was Thanksgiving Day and the whole Black Friday thing going on, the number one story that was going on last week, believe it or not, was wrestling related. Yes! A very controversial podcast was released to the internet involving one CM Punk. Now, for those of you who don't know who CM Punk is, he was a former wrestler who used to work for the WWE, and then of course he worked for other companies prior to being in the WWE, who recently, through the viewer's eyes, walked out or quit the WWE earlier this year. So if you saw the Royal Rumble this year, where he ended the match as the number one entry, and for those of you who don't know what the Royal Rumble pay-per-view match is, whatever, it's basically a 30-man over-the-top battle royal, where 30 men would be in there, obviously not at the same time. You know, there's a time limit, and when your time is up, you go out there, and then you try to stay in the ring without going over the top rope and both feet touching the floor. And of course, if you're the last one left, the winner will be quote-unquote main eventing WrestleMania, which is the biggest event of the year. It's like the Super Bowl, it's like the Final Four, you know, the NBA Finals, the World Series, it's all of that. You know, that's what WrestleMania is. And down to the Final Four between him, Batista, who is quote-unquote a part-timer, and he got eliminated from outside interference. And then the next day, he didn't show up. So everybody was wondering what the heck happened. Now, we finally get to hear what happened that night and from that point going forward. And he shared with us a lot of stuff. So again, let me go into who CM Punk is. You know, based on what I saw and based on what I heard, he basically somebody who is hard to work with. Not in the ring, but like hard to get along with, because he is an honest person. And he's honest in a good way, he's honest in a bad way. Like, he'll praise you when it's needed, and he'll tell you straight to your face, you suck, you know, without question. He'll look out for the other wrestlers who he believes, who the fans want to see over. And what I mean by over is like elevated to main event status, shouldn't be held back. You know, like if you were trying to get a raise and the man trying to hold you back, but yet you should go over, get your raise, it's the same way. And so basically he's a team player, you know. He would put people over if it makes sense, you know, whatever. So his story starts from the pipe bomb interview he gave back in 2011. I think that's what he was, up in Las Vegas. And ever since then, he really asked for some stuff because he'd been getting hit with offers from a lot of people. So, you know, he wanted to get sponsors, you know, like how, I think it's the WNBA, they got sponsors in their jerseys. The NBA wanted to do that crap at one point in time. So he wanted to do that for his wrestling gear, but WWE said no. But then all of a sudden, here comes former UFC guy, Brock Lesnar, who comes back to WWE. He has sponsors. Now, and of course, CM Punk gets no explanation as far as why Brock got sponsors. Now, keep in mind, Brock already has sponsors going back to the UFC. Before he came back to the WWE. But as far as we know, he probably got some more on his way back to WWE. Who knows? So that's a bad example there on his part. So then, CM Punk wants to walk a UFC fighter down to the octagon the day before the Royal Rumble. Not this year, but a couple of years back. WWE said no, it was too barbaric, despite the fact Owen Hart died in the WWE ring, which he mentioned to them. But yet, I think a week or so later, you see Triple H walking Mayweather to a boxing ring. No explanations for that. And then, basically, anytime CM Punk wants to do something that could possibly bring in more viewers, more profit, whatever, he'll bring it up to the WWE like a good little Boy Scout. They'll say no. All of a sudden, like the next day or the next week, John Cena's doing it. So he'll be like, what the hell? And then, of course, he was offered by Triple H to be in the WWE movie. And, you know, and WWE movies at that point in time was not, nowadays, it's hit or miss, depending on what it is, and depending on who in it. But when you do movies, you get house shows off. Now, what are house shows? So, in the WWE, you do your Raw, you do your SmackDown, both televised shows. But then you have these house shows where you travel non-stop and you do live events that are not on TV, but you still go out and do it. That's a house show. So when you do a movie, you get house shows off. But the problem was the shooting was going to be done during the European tour, which is, and as since CM Punk was the champion, he feels, and everybody feels like it's mandatory for him to do the European tour. CM Punk was like, yo, this shooting schedule doing the European tour. I have no problem missing the European tour if it is. But Triple H's like, no, it's not doing the European tour. And CM Punk going, yeah, it is. You know, we've done many of these before. You done them more than me. But still, we've done a lot of them. This is doing the European tour. So Triple H was like, okay, I'll double check. Instead, the next day, that offer went to another wrestler named Randy Orton. And it was announced online instead of them calling Punk saying, you know what, Punk, we just go give it to Orton. So yeah, that was a bit crazy. Then, but mainly he talked about it. He left the WWE mostly because of his health. He was not healthy at all. But there was other things that contribute to it as well. Not main eventing WrestleMania. The fact that he was constantly putting part-timers over. And what I mean by part-timer is guys, because these wrestlers, they travel all over the place. They wrestle all over the place. 300 days a year or 320 days a year, basically nearly a year. And yet, you got part-timers, guys like The Rock, Batista, The Undertaker, I think I said Brock Lesnar, I'm not sure, and Triple H. They wrestle like once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. They don't do a lot of traveling, but yet they get paid the most money at the biggest stage. They get the main event spots at the biggest stage, and CM Punk normally has to put these guys over. Despite the fact he's not getting the same pay as they are, despite the fact he's outperforming them, not just them, but everybody on the card. Basically, he's the best thing they had. And I'm not saying it because he said it's the absolute truth. Anybody that knows wrestling will say the exact same thing. But yet, he got to put people over and he's not getting paid the amount he believes he should be paid. And there was also a lot of, once he gets done putting these guys over, what's next? Because he still got to be at work the next day where these part-timers are gone. And there was never okay, what's next for CM Punk after this scenario? And he was sick and tired of that. And there was even some confusion about his pay. Let alone that he felt he was underpaid, there was still confusion about his pay. And he said that the WWE doesn't do anything to protect the wrestlers. They only protect themselves. Because, you know, like the NFL, they got a union. So, you know, the players' union. The NBA got a players' union. And so forth, whatnot. WWE don't have that. He talked about dropping the title to The Rock last year, and he wanted to go into WrestleMania 13 with the title. Doesn't care if he won or lost. He would have stopped losing at WrestleMania. He wanted to defend the title in the triple threat between himself, Rock, and John Cena. You know, whatever, an elimination style match where he could have been eliminated first, whatever. There was also a lot of miscommunications. There was one time where, going way back, he had to have surgery on his elbow, and he got the surgery 5 days later. Vince called, told her they need him on the road to do promos. So while his arm's in the sling, he had to go out and do promos. While recovering from the elbow surgery, Punk was like, okay, I need to get some work done on my eyes. So let me get this laser eye surgery. So then, a few days after the laser eye surgery, they informed, like, while he's on the road doing these promos, because his mindset is, yeah, I should go be here doing another promo. Now, for those of you who don't know, a promo is basically just stand out and talk. That's it. You just talk, you sell your character, you sell other characters or whatever. You don't do anything physical, you just talk. So, he thinking, okay, I'm just here to shoot another promo. Then Michael Hayes, who is an agent or whatever, came up to him like, okay, Punk, you working this guy. And CM Punk was like, what the hell? No. I just got laser eye surgery. He was like, well, you should have told us. Hello, I still recovering from my elbow. And they was like, no, we talked to the main doctor in Alabama. He said you're good. And then Punk was like, no, I supposed to go down and see him first to see if I'm good. No, but our road doctor called him and said you was good. You know, it was crazy. And then there was a bunch of scenarios where he would have surgery, or he would be recovering from something, and Vince would call him, say, hey, how you doing, buddy? And then Punk would be like, yeah, I'm doing okay. Well, you know, I'm doing okay. I'm still recovering. Oh, I just got done. Surgery went well, blah, blah, blah. And then Vince would be like, great, we need you for this. We need you for that. Like, basically, he's not getting enough time to heal from surgery or to heal, period. It's hilarious. And he really, and even though, like, at first Punk would be like, nah, but he endured everything he did just so he could main event WrestleMania. And now, let me explain to you about WrestleMania main event. Main event in WrestleMania. WWE have this philosophy where they'll sell you 4 matches. Now, don't get me wrong, like, these 4 matches are main event caliber matches. But the problem is, when you say main eventing, you normally think the match that goes on last. That's your definition of a main event. The match that goes on last. Punk never had that. He wanted that, but he never, that's what he was gunning for. And it was funny because Vince constantly told Punk, I owe you one. I owe you one. I owe you one. Matter of fact, he told him this 3 times. Like, he owed him 3 times. And it's crazy. And Punk also said that WWE like to take other people's ideas and make them their own. And which is funny because a former diva, aka a female wrestler or whatever, came up with an idea that, as my phone going off, that she pushed towards creative, and they took her idea and used it for somebody else, and it was hilarious. I'm like, wow, okay, there's some truth to that, because the whole Shield thing was originally his idea, and the Shield was supposed to be grouped with him after WrestleMania, but obviously it didn't happen. And then he talked about his issues with Ryback, which is hilarious as heck. It was funny as heck, that comment. I'll play that in this video. And basically, out of all the wrestlers there, it was only him and CM and John Cena who would go up to Vince or to whoever in charge or go to Creative and say, no, this is stupid. We should do that. Everybody else would not do that because everybody was too afraid to speaking up because they're afraid of getting fired, because at this stage in the game, WWE is the only one of its kind. Yeah, there's TNA, but let's face it, TNA is not on the same level as WWE. So, and like I said, so he's only CM Punk, John Cena who will walk up and stand up for themselves, be like, no, this is stupid, we should do that. Maybe Randy Orton, I don't know. Also, WWE, when CM Punk had to deal with his injuries, WWE would constantly put CM Punk on antibiotics. They made CM Punk heavier on antibiotics, especially Z-Pack. It's got to a point where he couldn't sleep. He actually shitted on himself on TV on SmackDown, and he even tweeted that, "Oh, I shitted myself on SmackDown." Everybody laughed, including Vince McMahon, who, by the way, is the chairman and CEO of the WWE. So basically, he runs WWE. So everybody laughing at it, but WWE, I guess corporate rep is like, no, you can't say shit on Twitter. So he they basically told him you have to take that tweet down. And CM Punk was like, what the fuck? So basically, he took the tweet down and he tweeted this. What did he say? This poop ain't funny no more. And then while he was the Superstar rapper, he blocked WWE on Twitter. So that was pretty funny. Basically, I mentioned this earlier, but despite the fact that he had the best match and was the best wrestler on WrestleMania 13, which was last year's WrestleMania, CM Punk believed that he would pay the least between himself, Undertaker, his opponent, John Cena, The Rock, Triple H, and Brock Lesnar, because there was like 3 main events, quote unquote. The one that went on last, obviously, was Cena versus The Rock for the title. Whereas it was CM Punk challenging The Undertaker for, at the time, the undefeated winning streak. And it was Triple H versus Brock Lesnar. But out of all those 3 matches, which was the biggest matches of the show, CM Punk versus The Undertaker was the best match. CM Punk was the best wrestler. But yet, he felt like he was paid the least. And he always felt like... And everybody keeps telling him, man, that match was good. That should have went on last. And CM Punk would be like, what the fuck? Okay, then if you feel that way, then pay me. Pay me to that caliber. And then there was, obviously, everybody heard about the lump story. The lump story is hilarious, but we get to the heart of the story. And the heart of the story is this: he didn't quit. He didn't quit he got fired on his wrestling. He got fired on his marriage day when he got married to AJ Lee, aka another WWE wrestler, a diva, who's still there now, by the way. But there are rumors that she may leave by the end of this month. Who knows? I don't know. But they got married, I think, in June, and on the day of his wedding day, he received his termination papers with FedEx. So he was like, and then he didn't receive 2 royalty checks. He didn't receive this year's royalty check, and then he found one from last year that he didn't cash, and it's expired. So he needed to cash that one, and WWE wouldn't do that for him. So once he got the termination paper, he's like, you know what? I'm about to sue these motherfuckers, and that's exactly what he did. He sued them. He won. He got everything he asked for, and then some. So he was basically set. And basically he said that's it. He's not going back. He's not going to TNA. He's not wrestling ever again because at this point he hated pro wrestling. Now a lot of people have responded to this podcast, and I'll get more in that second. But so from Chris Jericho, because he actually called Chris Jericho out. The mood backstage on Raw or after the podcast was that most of the wrestlers were happy, regarding what Punk said, because what Punk said was the truth. Triple H, who is now the COO of the company, a former wrestler, not COO, and also an on-screen character, he was pissed because Punk said a lot of stuff about Triple H. Well, not a lot of stuff. There was a few things he said about Triple H, and obviously Triple H got pissed off. It was crazy. Apparently Alberto Del Rio, former wrestler who had issues with WWE, he did a video today, which I'm about to watch not today. Tuesday, yesterday, that I'm about to watch in a second. A few people responded to it. In fact, WWE, Stone Cold Steve Austin did his own podcast, which was aired on the WWE Network. And when dealing with Stone Cold, his stuff is uncensored. He interviewed Vince McMahon, the owner of the WWE, on the WWE Network. So he asked about CM Punk. He mentioned TNA when you're really not supposed to. He referred to the superstars as wrestlers, even though Vince would really prefer them to be called sports entertainers or superstars. They wanted to get rid of the word wrestling and focus more on sports entertaining or whatever. So and there's a part 2 to this podcast. There's a part 2 coming out sometime this week, either today or tomorrow. I don't know when, but there is a part 2 to this. And this podcast was about 2 hours long. Now, I will admit, the beginning of it, the first 20% of the beginning was plugs from Colt Cabana, the guy who ran the podcast and was the host, obviously. And then, of course, the last couple of minutes was him plugging again about, where you can submit your emails or your questions for the next show. I will have another video pointing out some key parts that I took from the podcast. I heard the whole thing. I heard the whole thing, I think Saturday night. I just listened to it for the whole 2 hours. So, yeah, it's very crazy. It's very funny at times, and it's opened a lot of eyes about some things going on behind the scenes. But then again, it's only one person perspective. So, yeah, there you go right there. The game obviously ended, and, I did okay, whatever. This is the new Jay Gatsby saying, peace out, y'all. Got a surprise for y'all this Saturday.
So I acquiesce. I say,
Great word.
All right, I'll work Ryback. And I go up to Ryan and I go, hey man, clean slate. Let's fucking kill this. Let's fucking show them, that you're better than they think you are. Let's show them that I'm better than they think I am. And let's fucking, let's turn this mid-card shit into a fucking main event. Yeah, I'm really excited. Great, blah, blah, blah. First night out, gorilla press through a table, fucking misses the table. Dumps me on the concrete fucking ground. Tilts my fucking pelvis. Fucks me up for weeks.
True, if somebody wants to rap on these, would you want them to, or do you just feel like this should just be instrumental? Or...
Wow, that's actually a good question. I mean, I feel like it should mostly be an instrumental, but at the same time, if the money's right, and and or you somebody that I know personally, or you somebody famous, I have no problem letting you rap over it. But